so excited to be here today with one of my beautiful women I get to call a sister. You've become a bit of a regular on this show. So I am so excited. Beck Antonucci, welcome back to the Embodied Business Show.
Oh, I feel like I'm embodied business royalty at this point, the amount of times I've been back on. Thank you for having me back. I always love serving and being a part of your world.
Embodied business. Oh, so welcome, babe. We have been having some really, really big conversations lately, and we were like, we need to do a podcast on this because we both coach women in business, and there is some really, really big themes that we're seeing. And so today we want to spill the tea. We want to go really, really deep on what does it actually mean to build a big, successful business, and why are a lot of people making a lot of money and then a lot of people aren't making a lot of money, and what's the hang up in between it? Because what we know and what we've talked about is there are a few key ingredients that people are missing in the steps. And so today we're going to dive deeply into this and really unearth our personal opinions, because Beck and I, we've been in this journey together from the beginning when we both built our coaching businesses, and now we both have these incredible successful businesses doing what we love, being with the energy that we desire. And the one thing that we've noticed is there's a lot of bullshit in the industry, real talk.
Yeah.
And so today we're going to really bring this through. And one of the main things that started this conversation was there are a lot of people preaching manifestation techniques and all these sorts of things, but what is actually happening is they're skipping the part that actually solidifies them as a powerful salesperson in business.
Mm-hmm. There's also a lot of people talking about one specific message online, and that message can be making money, which I feel like all of us, let's not wrong making money, because we're all in business for a purpose. And one of those purposes is to make money. And I think you and I can both say we're here to create a lot of it. And I don't think we need to wrong that. I think what can become misleading is when it's only about money. And then we get confused about who is messaging about money and messaging's truth about money, and who is using misleading marketing tactics as a way to enroll people into their programs from a place of desperation, because money is such a niche and still taboo and very stigmatized market. If I want to create a lot of attention online, I could talk about the herpes virus. I could talk about money, and people are aware of what will penetrate a very saturated market, which is social media.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually had someone on the weekend say to me, tell me if you talk about getting women to 20K months, why is that a thing for you? If all your work is around somatics and getting women embodied in their work. And I'm like, because that's where their eyes are on right now, right? I'm not selling you from my pay packet. I'm selling you from what you're desiring. And so there's a big shift here. And I love that you brought this in, because most women that I see who are trying to make it big, they're doing it through, I've made this much money. I've made this much money. But what they're not talking about is their impact.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Or their client results. I think it's one thing. I was having this conversation with someone else on the weekend, my business coach, actually, where I had her on my podcast. There's a very big discernment between I made this amount of money myself, and now I have a proven method that I can work with numerous other people, hundreds of other people, and reproduce that same result. So I talk about my $20,000 months, my $50,000 months, my 5, my 100, whatever your number is. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. That's great. But are you repeatedly across the board creating those results with those clients? And when someone is only talking about their own results and not the results of their clients, I would challenge that they're producing those kinds of results across the board with their clientele.
Yeah, I love this. I remember once hearing, it was actually from a mutual friend of ours, Estelle had written in one of her posts, and a major red flag is if a coach only talks about themselves on their social media, right? They're not sharing the results. They're not talking about what they're actually doing and how they're impacting their people. And I think when that hit me, I was just like, oh, that is so true. Because when I only hear someone there's a difference between talking about experience versus only talking about themselves, right? And so when I'm only hearing someone talk about themselves and not giving a learning, not giving a way for people to really take this into their own world so they can embody it too, it can be quite hard for people to understand, well, how do I actually get results with you? And this is the loop that keeps happening, right? We see people being like, oh, I made a 10K day and I did this. And so people instantly think, if I work with you, I'm going to get the 10K day. But those people, they often don't know how to teach these things. They don't have the skill set to allow someone to embody what it takes to actually hold that energy, because they've got that from their coach and they instantly think that they can go on and teach that in the same way. I find this, what were you going to say there?
And I find really a powerful mentor is someone who really, in my opinion, aligns with your values. And so if your entire life is about creating 10K days and all that person talks about is 10K days, amazing. But there's so much more to your life than just your 10K day. So someone that has a streamlined message where, you know, they're not just throwing shit at a wall and hoping that one part of their message sticks, but that like yours is succinct. You know what Casey is going to be talking about. Bex is succinct, you know, but I'm not only talking about money. I'm talking about standards, boundaries, healing our wounds with the masculine, self-expression, owning your truth. Now, whether I work with a self-worth client or a client that comes to me and says, I want to create 20K months, it's still the same pillars of teaching. It's still the same principles. It's still the same messaging. Now, the client may come with a higher caliber pain point and or problem. She might no longer want a boyfriend, but now she wants to make $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in her business. The messaging, the teaching, the principles, that's still the same. So if I was about to sign up to someone and all they spoke about was 10K days, I'd probably be like, that's not how I see my life. My life is bigger than just the 10K day. So I need someone that has a more well-rounded message.
Yeah. And I think that's really important too, because a lot of people forget that in business and they make money their God. Like, I know I've walked this path. You've watched me literally like almost fucking ruin my relationship over this shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's really easy to make money our God when we're told by society we have to be a certain way. We have to make a certain amount of money. And especially when we see the coaching industry being like, if you don't make 7 figures, you're not this and you're not that. And so we see the people who are just stepping into the coaching industry, right? And a lot of our clients are people who are trying to come up. They're trying to build higher levels of business, but they're stepping in and then they've got this pressure from society being like, we're at 7 figures and that's the only thing. And I think the main thing I want to drive home is like, you get to be in the journey of it, right? And it's like, when you allow yourself to actually come into a space of embodiment through that, it actually happens so much faster. But you can't do that by just expecting that you're going to get there once, like within like a month or 2 months or any of those things. And I know you and I have talked about like the leaps and bounds that we've taken energetically every time we've had a financial up level. But this is not what a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who have you had to become to make like you know, without going into it, but the amount of money that you've made, like from the time that I've known you, it's a completely different woman that's emerged.
Yes.
Right?
You spoke about this on a podcast recently, the glass ceilings that had to be smashed through, because I've personally always had the belief that I can. So maybe some of your listeners right now are thinking, someone listening right now is thinking, I know inherently that I can, but life is not reflecting my knowing. I've always known I'm a multimillionaire. How am I not there yet? I've had to really look at my capacity, my nervous system, my values, what I'm not willing to say, what I'm not willing to ask for, who I'm being, what my beliefs are, and what I'm actually living. Sometimes they've been two very different things. I stayed in a safe relationship when I knew it was time to leave. I was living in Perth when I knew that I needed to go. So a lot of these personal ceilings, energetic ceilings, had to be smashed through to create expansion. I had to look at my own expectations. In my first year of business with our mentor, Preston, I'd made 200 grand in the first 8 months. But I also remembered him saying I earned 60 grand in my surfing business. Then I made 150 and then 300 and then 600. So I didn't realize, but I planted a seed of expectation in my mind that said, if my mentor doubled his income every year, then I must be doing that. So my first year, I felt so abundant and so proud. The next year, I was like, 400 grand, baby, where are you? And it didn't hit 400. And so it grew a little bit, but it definitely didn't even 1.5 times. And so I was like, well, hold on, but Preston did. So
Yeah.
year 3 still hadn't hit 400 yet. And I was like, then I started to feel fueled by shame. How have I not doubled my income again? And then that started to impact my results. And so we get to look at the expectations they can come from. And it wasn't Preston projecting his expectations on me. It was me hearing his journey and projecting that onto myself. Instagram can do it. Oh, this person talking about their 7-figure month, their 6-figure launch, their whatever they did. They came steam training out of their gate when they launched their coaching business. I had 3 failed businesses before my coaching business. So you don't know the full story to that which you're comparing yourself to.
And I think that's such a powerful point to drive home, right? Because we instantly have this, well, I can do it, I can do this, and I can do it that way. And like we're looking at just the snapshot of what they've shared on Instagram, right? Like I remember this was about 2 years ago. Tiariki was still breastfeeding, so it may have been even longer. I was on a call with one of my mentors, Scott Alford, and I was saying to him like, oh, like I love what embodied business is, but I feel like I need to do more. I feel like I need to create more and more and more. And I was going on and I was talking, and he was like, hold on a second, where is this coming from? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And he's like, you literally have just said you're still breastfeeding and you've got a multi 6-figure business. Where is, like, you've hit the jackpot if you're working this minimal hours and able to be with your baby and still breastfeed and all the things. Why do you need more? And it was in that moment I really sat in the whole like, oh, this is the seed that's been planted from social media where I have to keep up with the Joneses. Like, and it's been like, it's so big. Like, and I don't think a lot of people understand just how much, like, when they're fueling with saying like, oh yeah, this is what I've made, this is what I made. It's like, well, hold on a second. How are you holding the standard for the industry when people are also trying to come up? And the one thing I want to highlight here is we're not talking on a scarcity level. Like, this is not from a place of being like, oh, well, you shouldn't talk about that because you're going to create scarcity. It's not that at all. It's about creating realistic expectations in business growth. When you start to look at actual business models, right? Put aside the coaching industry for a moment and talk about just general business in like a real consensus. The average business doesn't break through or like break even until 2.5 years in. Like, and yet we have this misconception that the minute we step into the online space, it's going to be like, boom, we've hit the lottery. Like things are going to go crazy. But everyone forgets what it takes to build that. So
doctors study for 10 years. Preston was talking about one of his friends and mentors who did 10,000 hours unpaid in his trainingship with his mentor. I think because you can get, once you work out how, you can get paid quickly. But if you're in the industry just to get paid quickly, I don't think you will last long. Quick results go. Whereas I remember, you know, in programs that you and I have been in, when we're usually paired with someone that becomes our accountability buddy, and my accountability buddy was age-wise a lot older than me, so he came with a lot more maturity, and I was sharing with him my frustrations around going slow. He was like, Beck, a pyramid. It's got that large, strong, solid base, and it goes up gradually to the point. Once you've got that strong base, nothing will rock you. You will always have that foundation. You cannot unbuild a strong, solid foundation. So I feel like everything that I've been working for is coming alive now. And it's so funny. I'm like, why did I put so much pressure on myself for 4.5 years? I was building such a solid foundation whilst telling myself I should be getting my results that I'm getting in year 10. You know, they're going to come right now, but I'm sure in year 10, they're going to really be flourishing. But I had this expectation that the results I get in year 10 should be there whilst I'm in my foundation era. If you're building your foundation, you're building your foundation. And if you're in an industry just because you think you can create cash fast, the consumer, your potential client, is going to feel that energy from you. And no one wants to buy from someone that just wants to grab their cash.
Yeah. It's like that that real get energy, right? Like when people be like, I've got a client and stuff like that, I just feel it immediately. Like it becomes repulsive almost.
Yes.
And you said there about the, like, you know, building the really strong foundations, right? Like this is the thing. The compound effect doesn't work like being like, oh yeah, let's just start at the top. It needs you to get solid at the bottom to start to like really solidify, right? Like And the more that you solidify at the bottom, the faster it starts moving. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's like, and yeah, like you and I, we've been in this journey together, and we're both seeing very like the big yield that's come in now, like the minimal effort, but it's because the consistency's been there for a long time now.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what's been your biggest lesson through all of this journey of like from focusing on money to focusing on foundations to like understanding what it actually takes to build a powerful business where your brand and everything is recognized? What do you think is the biggest lesson that you've had?
Oh my God, this past year, specifically the past 3 months, my business has always done well, and I've always loved marketing. I've always loved talking to people. I just love seeing what gets people to want to work with you. That what enrolls. I love enrollment energy, but what the real attraction marketing that feels so in alignment with my values that has come through recently is embodiment. Like realizing through the past 12, like I've always spoke about personal freedom, freeing yourself from shame, speaking your truth, living free. But I was doing that locked in my office in Perth, Western Australia for 2 years. And then I left and I actually went and lived my life, and I truly embodied freedom, personal freedom and abundance, like the liberated woman claiming her pleasure, going for it. I didn't tell women about that. I lived it. And then next minute, people are literally throwing cash at me to work with me, not because I'm telling them what I'm doing. They're experiencing me and saying, what you have, I want. And I feel like that is, you've called your whole brand is embodied business. You can tell someone you're a businesswoman and you can embody the fierce businesswoman that you are. And it's two different things.
I was just about to say, this is the whole preface I've built my entire business off, because I see so many people, they're like, why am I not making money? Why aren't I doing things? Literally, the minute they come into my coaching, I'm like, well, are you doing the thing that you say you're teaching? Like, that's like usually one of the first things that we tackle on is like, are you actually living, breathing, walking embodiment of the thing that you teach? And they'll be like, yeah, I do it most days, or I'm like pretty on top of it. And it's like those tiny bits of like a lack of integrity, they show up in your energetic field, right? And
I didn't even know, because I was stuck in my office and I'm like, at the time I could only think work harder, earn more. But I was working, I was scared to leave my office because I thought I would earn less. I was like, how the F am I going to break this financial glass ceiling over my head? I'm in this office from first thing Monday morning to the end of the day Friday. I had this whole block around living my life because I didn't want my clients to think that I was taking their money and spending it, for God's sakes, and living my life, which is so weird seeing as Preston is our mentor, and he, before he got married and had 10,000 children, was fully embodying a freedom lifestyle. And I just couldn't, I just had this financial ceiling over my head and I had no idea what to do. And once I lived and actually experienced that embodiment is directly attached to expansion in all capacities, including financial, I was like, how did I not see so clearly this? But I had to go through the fears. I had to go through the fear of my business collapsing, the fear of not failing. But I thought, if I'm not going to work harder, it's like I'm trying to work harder and earn more. Surely not working harder is going to mean that I'm going to earn less. I had to go through the fear of my business crashing every time. Every time I went on a holiday, every time I moved away, I was like, that's it. This is how it all falls apart. And it never, ever did.
And that's the thing too, like I know for me, when I switched my model from being like one-to-one, like I was like the same, working a fucking shitload of hours, and then I moved into a mastermind model where I literally work very minimal hours now. The nervous system work that I had to do for that to be okay, of being like, I don't have to be on all the time. And then
it's like, we're not working, this is not good, what's happening right now?
And like even recently, like I remember I went through a period where like, and this was like maybe 6-8 months, you watched this firsthand, right? Where I was like recalibrating. I was going through shit with my partner. I was like in the mess and I just started gaining like a whole heap more weight and stuff. And my mentor was like, but the thing was, I was leaning into overworking again. The old pattern resurfaced of just being like over responsible, overworking, all the things. And he was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you've got a business model where you don't have to work. Why are you working so much? It's like, your next level's through your body. And I was like, oh, duh. Like, how was that not so obvious? And the minute that was like landed, it once again shifted. And I think women really, they get it wrong in the messaging of what we should be online, because they think how you're showing up online is what is energetically available for people. But it's like, you do realize that that's an imprint of who you're being. Like, it's like, if you're not that person in person, the resonance isn't there. It's like, you meet this big, I'm sure you've done it, but you meet these big, bold personalities, and they're like a fucking wet rag in person. And you're just like, really? Like, how are you like so cool and so powerful and so like, you know, magnetic online, and then I meet you and you're just like boring and sour? I'm like, no thanks. I don't want a bar of that kind of energy.
Well, even when it comes to imposter syndrome, like, I don't resonate. And everyone's like, how? Tell them. Because I'm so honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the truth. So how could it ever be? I don't lie about how qualified I am. I don't lie about where I'm at with a relationship. I don't lie about fears, insecurities, finances, whatever it is, arguments I've had with friends or family. I'm like, how could imposter syndrome come up? I am who I say that I am.
That's interesting. You've just linked something really powerful for me, because I always say imposter syndrome is a good sign that you care, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, a lot of people will overqualify themselves to make it look like they care, but it's actually like, you don't need to do that shit.
Yeah.
So
or
good.
even, you know, the past year, I've never marketed myself as a business coach. I've had self-worth clients, and I really trust God. I have a really deep relationship with my own faith with a higher power. And all of my one-on-one clients, just by God wanting me to obviously be a business coach, it sent me all private clients who are coaches, service-based entrepreneurs. And they all started like, even if they came to me for shame, they'd end up having a business that was doing not a lot, and then we'd end up blowing it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had mentors who were like, just claim that you're a business coach, claim that you're a business coach, claim that you can support women to go from zero, like what the fuck months, to $30,000 months. And I was like, nope. And the reason was I wasn't there yet on my journey. And I also needed to solidify within myself this strong belief that I can produce results, not for one client, two clients, consistent results that I'm willing to stamp my name next to and say, me, my work, yes, we did that. And after 12 months of that, consistently, and having result after result, and even undercharging business coaching, like self-worth coaching rates for business coaching clients, and being like, fuck, you got a steal there, but I got self-belief. So now when I'm like, yeah, it's 30 grand to work with me, I'm like, it's 30 grand to work with me, and I can hold it because I know, because I've got the reps in. Before, I didn't have the reps.
I think this is so important too. I remember, like, this was years ago. This was before we ever did the leap or anything like that, right? I hired a coach, and it was like, it's 11 grand to work with them for 8 weeks. And I was like, and this was a group container, and I was like, at the time, it was my biggest investment. I was like, this is huge. Like, oh my God, I'm going to get so much out of it. And they were talking about scaling, and everything was like about scale. And, you know, it was before I had my son. So I was like, I was hungry. I was like, I just wanted to make everything right. And I remember walking away from that program just being like, that was the biggest fucking waste of money I've ever spent. I was so angry. But then what happened was I solidified who I was as a coach because of what I brought. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm actually really good at what I do. And that, for me, I may not have gotten what I wanted out of the program, but I realized that what I bring is actually like really powerful and potent to my clients. And so I immediately raised my prices after that as well, because I was able to be like, well, hold on a second, I can hold this energy now. And that's why I think a lot of people, they're wanting to charge their clients certain rates, but they've never paid that or never invested that or never understand what it is to do that. I'm curious, because I have a lot of people who are like, I want to charge that much and do those sorts of things. Like, what for you, what was it that said, you know what, I'm good to hold this amount of money in what I charge for people to work with me?
Actually, it was funny. I had a client just before it was her opening session, and she's like, I don't know about the raise and if they'll pay. I'm like, my wishes like my worth, my deservingness. I'm like, your rates aren't a reflection of your worth. We're all humans. We're all worthy.
Yeah.
So there isn't actually a rate that I could put on my work that could be a reflection of my worth. There's a rate that I can put on my work that is a reflection of the transformation that we create in the time that we're working together and what that is worth to the client. I have a client with an infrared studio sauna. She thought that she came to me for self-worth. An infrared studio sauna owner. She thought that she came to me for self-worth. She now has sold out saunas. She now has a wait list. She now has mastered community building. She now has 3 staff members. Before it was herself and didn't really know what left from right. What's that worth to her? Well, now she has a thriving business. Now she can take time off. So we can put a number to that. And that's how I can connect to it. And the belief that, again, the belief that I can repeat. Because if I get clients for Beck, awesome. Can I get if I can get results for Beck, awesome. Can I get results for Beck and Casey? Yes. Beck, Casey, and Tracy. Beck, Casey, Tracy, and Estelle. Like, the more people you can get repeated results for, the more you're like, these are my rates, babe, because if it's not you, it's someone else. And the aligned client is the person who you're going to get thriving results with.
Yeah. And I think there's a solidity that really comes with owning that piece, because like when you've got congruency in your pricing and people just feel that, it's like I remember when I first pitched someone, I think I charged like $4,000 at the time. And people were like, how much is it to work with you? And I'm like, $4,000. Like, and I was saying it so fast. I was so ungrounded in the energy because I couldn't hold it myself now. Like back then, sorry. And so now when I share what it is to work with me, I'm really solidified in that. It's like, yeah, cool. You want to work with me 1-to-1 for a whole year? That is $60,000. Yeah. That's okay. Like, it's okay. And like landing in my body with that without it being something that's off kilter, like, and you feel it.
And do you know what happens when you do have the belief? You're like, when you don't have the belief yet, anyone that kind of DMs you, anyone that asks, you're like, oh, you almost like a potential client want to grab. But when you know that you can, and you know that the abundance of clients is coming from wherever they're coming from because of who you be, it's like, Case can ask to work with me. I'll be like, yeah, babe, it's this amount for this amount of time. If you're open, we can have a chat. If you don't get back to me, I can check in and be like, did you think about it? You're like, not right now. Cool. I don't need to grab at you because I know it will come from somewhere else. But when I don't have the belief that it's coming, like Preston often talks about the thermostat of the aircon, the air conditioner. And, you know, if it's set to 21 degrees and it's hot outside, it will kick in. If it's cold outside, it will kick in to always bring the room back to 21. I've done the work to shift my internal thermostat. It's like signing clients, especially one-on-one, is like brushing my teeth. I don't need to wake up in the morning and be like, come on, Rebecca, go into the bathroom, get your toothbrush, put the toothpaste on it, brush your teeth for 2 minutes, gargle the water. Like, I don't need to think about any of those steps. I just know exactly what to do. Do it twice a day. It's done. Signing one-on-one clients and making that particular rate a month, it's done. It's like brushing my teeth. And I've done the work to make sure that that's the thermostat.
Let's just quickly talk about the work for the thermostat, because people think like you instantly get this, but I personally know through your journey and through mine, there's been a lot of fucking fails to get to that level of holding yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of fails. What do you think was the thing that made you the most solidified in holding that?
Consistency over time. Duplicating and repeating the one thing until it became like brushing my teeth. And once I mastered that toothbrushing exercise and that thermostat had raised, then I moved on to the next toothbrushing exercise. And it's like being a child again and learning how to brush my teeth all over again until it becomes practice and embodied. And then I move on to the next thing. I often say to clients, you haven't done enough for long enough to know whether something works or not. I'm a master at consistency. Yeah. I will go, like, you can trust that I'm on Instagram every day. I'm having a chat to my Instagram stories every day. I launch a podcast episode every Monday, same time every Monday. There's like certain key performance tasks that I'm committed to because I know that they move the needle. Because I know that they move the needle, I love to do them because they're the needle movers. The needle movers create the clients, create the money, create the freedom, create the aliveness, create the pleasure, create the reason that I can get on a plane to you this week and see you in Gold Coast, create the reason that I know I'm going to Bali. I love the needle movers. And so that knowing what my needle movers are, staying committed, staying consistent, and not pivoting the second something goes wrong. I believe that money does love us to be fast and moving forward, but like receiving the feedback life gives us and working with it rather than just being like, oh, well, tap out now, like stay consistent.
Yeah. Let's talk into that, because this is the thing that I know gets a lot of people like to drop off energetically, right?
Yeah.
It's like the minute they get the no, the minute that they get like something that comes in their way where they think it's a, qualified yes or a guaranteed yes, they're like, oh, that didn't work, I'm out. I literally have the conversation with my clients all the time. I'm like, when we're speaking statistically, right? If you want to get 10 phone calls or 10 sales calls with people, you're looking at 100 conversations with people, statistically speaking. And then out of those 10, chances are one are going to sign up with you, but no one's willing to do that work. No one's willing to actually break that down. And I remember you and I having the conversations years ago. I was like, well, how many DMs have you done? How many reach outs have you done? Like, you know what I mean? To try and build it. And people think that I can just do attraction marketing and it builds up naturally. And then one person will reach out there and know, oh, it didn't work. But they're not doing the actual stuff behind the scenes to grow the business. Like, I am so not anti reach outs, like, and anti doing the thing. And I know that you stand by this as well, because we've had so many conversations about it. But I think this is a really, really key energetic to hold as well. It's like, you actually don't know how good you are until you do that side of it as well.
And I mean, I'm definitely anti copy and paste boring, ingenuine scripts. Like just being sold some shit to my DM that they've sent to 100 people. I'm anti that. But real connection, real infusing who you are into connecting with humans, knowing the value of your work, that like if you actually are a heart-led service provider and your work can genuinely create transformation for other people, you're literally robbing someone of an opportunity of a huge breakthrough. Maybe they've pedestaled you and they think Antonucci is too busy. Case Warwick is too busy. Why would I ask? And it actually takes us to say like, no, like send me a message. How are you going? Let me connect you with my sales team. I'd love to see how we can support you with this. We've got a number of different pathways for you to explore coaching with me. Let's have a chat. Maybe you giving them the invitation is the permission slip they need to say yes, because you've got some fucked up story about DMs or being told no, or people who cold DM sleazy car salesmen, whatever your story is that's keeping you broke. Cool. Awesome. If you're happy being broke, stick with it. And if you're not, maybe something gets to change.
I love that so much, because like the amount of times I've literally written to someone, they're like, oh my God, I never expected a message from you, or I didn't expect you to respond. It's like, we're all human in this journey. Like, all of us are human. And when we give that human essence, people feel safer. They want to say yes. They want to create that connection with you.
I mean, my whole business, this coming 12 months, a financial year, will be my first 7-figure year. And I've worked fucking hard for it. I built my entire business off asking people to work with me. I built my entire business of genuinely saying, like, I really hear where you're at. I have been studying this since I was 25 to have a solution for something that I was navigating myself. And if you are open to it and you're open to the coaching, I'd love to jump on a call and have a conversation with you. Granted, in my 4th year, I have sales team that do most of my connection calls. But to begin with, I didn't. I did everything. I did every link. I did every email. I did every lead. I did every sales call. I did every payment link. And I asked women to work with me. And that's how I built my business from the ground up.
Yeah. And just to really hone in on that, that's the bit that people want, but they're not willing to work for. Right? It's like, I want the team. I want this. I want that. Like, I see, some of my clients come in, they want the same level of team that I have immediately with working with me. It's like, hold on, let's solidify first. Let's build the fucking foundation so you can have that. And
also so that you know what's happening in your business.
Yeah.
I said to my business coach the other day, I'm going to palm this off to my operations and manager, Charlotte. I'm going to give it, Charlotte, I hate this part. She's like, well, from a responsibility piece, it's important that you understand it. Not just like, here you go, do it and see how you go with it. So what I love about my business, and actually was my first hire and fire, or my first hire and we had a difficult completion, which was a really triggering and expansive experience for me. I got to a point where I didn't want to do everything, that I handed every responsibility that I didn't want over, that I actually lost control of my business for a bit. And so that didn't feel good as well. So what I love about the way that I originally built my business is I did know every single part of it from the inside out.
Yeah. I love that too, because I had very similar things come in. Like I remember when I first started making a lot of money, I didn't want to deal with it because it was like, money for me, I hadn't healed the wounding that I had around it. So I was like, my team can just sort it out. Like they can just do it. I don't want to touch that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't open up my stuff. But once I started actually being like, well, hold on a second, this is just all taking my power, I started cleaning things up and started being able to actually do some different stuff. And the same thing with my systems. I had a moment just like, I think it was like last week, where I was like, to Tanya, my OB, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, I need you to actually show me what this is, because I don't feel comfortable not knowing that part of my business. And she's like, yeah, we'll do it on our next like huddle. And it's just those tiny little pieces that it's so easy for things to get away from you. And it's not micromanaging, it's just smart business. I think.
Yeah. My first hire, what became true was she didn't enjoy being an assistant. And as a part of the role, supporting me in some capacities, you still are assisting me. And so she loved total autonomous work. And so when I asked her, which is so weird reflecting now, really showed me and reflected the places where I didn't use my voice. But the system is, if we create any new process, at the same time, you literally record a system for it. So if everything fell to shit tomorrow, I could be like, Mum, I need help. And this is where you go through the Notion board to figure out exactly what to do. It's like Beck Antonucci's coaching business for dummies. The only thing that you couldn't do is deliver the work. And she didn't do the processes, because she was like, oh, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. I'm like, oh, she likes working autonomously, she'll do it later. And then when it came time for her to end, the one thing I really needed done wasn't done, and she went to hold the processes hostage. And I realized I had so much shift and transition in my business and expanded so much from where I'd brought it, that now all of a sudden it was like, great, well, if she doesn't do the systems and processes tomorrow, I don't know how any of this runs anymore. And it was a really confronting place to be with my own business.
It's scary. Hey, I remember years ago, someone locked, like my old accountant, I had a falling out with her, and she locked me out of my account, like my taxation account online. And so because she had set it up in my name, it then looked like I was the fraudulent one trying to get into my account. It was so scary. So like, and these are all the big lessons that you have in business, right? Like it's a lot when you're not aware of what's actually going on. But I just really want to drive it home real quickly, because I am mindful of us trying to do a quick podcast, and we're right.
But I think hours later.
But I think this is really important, because there's a lot of stuff where people are trying to skip to be successful, and you have to get the runs on the board. You have to energetically be able to back yourself and hold yourself, and you can only do that through the fuck ups. You can only do it through the trial and error and all the things that come into it. So if there was someone who was listening right now and they were like trying to do what they're seeing online with everyone, what would be 3 quick little tips that you would give them?
I mean, I would, number one, unfollow anyone that you're comparing yourself to that isn't actually inspiring you.
Oh, boom.
Right?
Yes.
Literally, pick who your leadership team is, who your higher council is, who your support squad is, and anyone that you're like, oh, well, she's talking about $1 million months, but it's actually making me feel bad. Just hit that unfollow button. It's no difference to when you used to be a fitness model and you used to follow a wannabe fitness model, or whatever you were doing in your fitness career, and following all the six-pack athletes. Does it make you feel better? And is it inspiring you to be better? If not, unfollow them. Number 2, really ask your soul what season you're in. Like, like Rebecca Antonucci being like, I should be a millionaire already in my office in Perth. Like, what season are you in? Like, babe, you're a baby in this industry. You only just started. And get really honest with yourself. Like, oh, a doctor studies for 10 years, takes 10,000 hours to be a master. How many hours in are you? And get really honest with yourself of like, yeah, your personality wants you to be a millionaire, but you're obviously not one right now for a reason.
Yeah.
And number 3, I would just clean up all the places in my business where I'm out of integrity.
Boom. So big. Yeah. And I just really want to hone in on that second one, because I think that's the biggest piece here of like the whole podcast today is like, you know, if you are actually honest in your season, the integrity piece will land naturally. Like, it's so big. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
Pleasure, my darling.
I have one more question for you, because I ask you this every time you come on. If this were the last time that anyone were to hear your voice,
yeah,
what would be the bit of advice that you would want to give them?
Oh God, you've actually never asked me that before. I'm like, my heart. Oh, like, go live your life and speak. Go live your life and speak your truth. Say the thing that you're afraid to say. Do it, do it, do it, do it.
Amazing. All right, guys. Beck's details are in the show notes. Please follow her. She's a spicy motherfucker. I love you so much. Thank you for coming on the show.
I can't wait to share. Thank you for having me back.
Embodied.